The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. Namaskar, welcome to PT Pointers, and in this video, we will cover major headlines of The Hindu, Indian Express, and Press Information Bureau. So, without wasting any time, let's start today's discussion. And our first headline is related to Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana, which was launched in 2018, and it provides health coverage up to 5 lakh per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization, and beneficiaries are identified based on the deprivation and occupational criteria of socio-economic caste census 2011 for rural and urban areas. Now, why is it in the news? So friends, government is preparing to include ASHA and Anganwadi workers in its Ayushman Bharat scheme because government in this year's budget announced the decision to include ASHA and Anganwadi workers into Ayushman Bharat scheme. Our next headline is related to brumation, which describes a period of dormancy or slowed activity in reptiles. It is similar to hibernation in mammals. Reptiles enter a state of brumation to conserve energy to survive adverse environmental conditions. It typically occurs during colder months when temperatures drop and food becomes scarce. Brumation is crucial for reptiles to survive cold climates and endure challenging environmental conditions. Our next headline is related to PM Swanidhi, which is a central sector scheme, and it was launched in 2020 by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. It provides collateral-free loans up to 50,000 for eligible street vendors in incremental tranches, and under the scheme, regular repayments are incentivized with a 7% interest subsidy, and digital transactions are rewarded with cashback up to 1,200 per year. And under this scheme, all street vendors engaged in vending in urban areas are eligible. These street vendors should have either a certificate of vending or a letter of recommendation issued by the respective town vending committee. Our next headline is related to former Prime Minister Chaudhary Charan Singh, and recently he has been conferred the Bharat Ratna. Now let's know more about Chaudhary Charan Singh. So friends, he was born in 1902 in Ghaziabad district of Uttar Pradesh in poor peasants family. In 1937, he was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Uttar Pradesh, and in 1938, he introduced an agricultural produce market bill which was intended to safeguard the interest of the farmers against the rapacity of the traders. He was also influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence and entered India's independence movement. In 1952, he was Revenue Minister of Uttar Pradesh, and one of his major contributions was that he did away with the Jamindari system, and he also brought in Land Reforms Act. He was a strong opponent of Nehru's socialism. He left Congress in 1967 and formed his independent party known as the Bharatiya Lok Dal. He served twice as Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, and he became Prime Minister of India in 1979. He led a simple life and spent his spare time reading and writing. He was author of several books and pamphlets including Abolition of Zamindari, Cooperative Farming, X-Rayed, India's Poverty and its Solution. Our next headline is related to Nazul land, which is owned by the government but most often not directly administered as state property. State allots such land to any entity on lease for a fixed period, generally between 15 and 99 years. In the case lease term is expiring, one can approach the authority to renew the lease by submitting a written application to the Revenue Department of the local development authority, and then government is free to either renew the lease or cancel it. Government generally uses Nazul land for public purposes like building schools, hospitals, Gram Panchayats building, and several cities in India have also seen large tracts of land denoted as Nazul land used for housing societies, generally on lease. Now let's know the background of Nazul land. So friends, during British rule, kings and kingdoms which opposed the British frequently revolted against them, and leading to several battles between them and British army. And upon defeating these kings in battle, British would often take their land away from them. But after India got independence, British vacated these lands, but with kings and royals often lacking proper documentation to prove prior ownership, these lands were marked as Nazul land. Now, why is it in the news? So friends, violence erupted in Uttarakhand's Haldwani district after administration conducted a demolition drive at the site of a mosque and madrasa allegedly on Nazul land. Our next headline is related to Maharishi Dayanand Saraswati, and recently Prime Minister of India addressed a program on the 200th birth anniversary of Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who founded a reform association called Arya Samaj, which is an organization that attempted to reform Hinduism. He also supported widow remarriage. He was born as Mool Shankar Tiwari. He was a social reformer and he contributed towards the fight against social discrimination and untouchability. He learned Sanskrit and Vedas in his childhood and he gave a slogan of Go Back to Vedas. He stressed the importance of education for all children and preached respect and equal rights for women. He also preached against giving of donations to Christ. He wrote many books and his major contribution is Satyarth Prakash, and other books include Sankar Vidhi and Rigved Bhashyam, etc. He stressed on one god and rejected idol worship. Our next headline is related to Swati Portal, which stands for Science for Women, a Technology and Innovation, which is recently launched by Principal Scientific Advisor. It is a complete interactive database and the first of its kind in India, which is developed and maintained by the National Institute of Plant Genome Research. It is aimed at creating a single online portal representing Indian women and girls in STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and Medicine. Our next headline is related to lymphatic filariasis, which is commonly known as elephantiasis. It is a neglected tropical disease. An infection occurs when filarial parasites are transmitted to humans through mosquitoes. Infection usually acquired in childhood and causes hidden damage to the lymphatic system. It is caused by infection with parasites classified as nematodes or roundworms of the family Filariodidae. It can be eliminated by stopping the spread of infection through preventive chemotherapy with safe medicine combinations repeated annually, and it is targeted to be eliminated by 2027. And dear friends, it affects over 120 million people in 72 countries throughout the tropics and subtropics of Asia, Africa, Western Pacific, parts of Caribbean and South America. And our next and last headline is related to Stanza, which is an international boxing tournament. So with this, let's conclude our today's discussion. Thanks for listening, and for regular updates, you can follow us on various social media platforms.